Good evening. Welcome to LoveLogical, DNA Not Required. This is Michelle L. Anderson, coming to you live from Podcast Detroit, Royal Oak Studios. We are looking forward to intriguing and entertaining you every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Let me start today's show by saying thank you for joining our family, which is biological by nature, LoveLogical by choice, DNA Not Required. Well, hello, everyone. This is Michelle L. Anderson coming to you today. I am very happy to introduce to you a magnificent lady. We were just sitting here and having a conversation because she does so much. I met Miss Nicole Beecher back a few years ago at an event at the Renaissance Center. And I have followed her ever since. And it just amazes me some of the things that I've seen grow from Nicole Beecher International. You do finances. And then the etiquette school opened. And that really captured my attention because etiquette is something that was very popular back up to, I think, the 70s. And it was normal for ladies at one point in time to go to etiquette training. And if you didn't go to etiquette training, then you had etiquette training at home. And I was one of those people that I had etiquette training at home. And we would actually go out for fine dining so that I could know how to conduct myself in restaurants. We would go to the opera, we would go to the symphony, and different things so that I knew how to conduct myself in every given situation. And yes, born and raised on the east side of Detroit, Chalmers, south of Jefferson. But my mother was, from the south and was determined that her kids were going to be well-rounded. So we did rodeos and everything. So thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on today.
Thank you. As I look at myself on my phone on your page.
That's okay. You've been traveling and just got back in town today, so I know you have a lot going on.
I did. First of all, thank you so much for the kind introduction. I really appreciate that. I don't know. They do say I have a lot going on. But I'm very grateful and I'm very thankful for the things that are transpiring in my life right now.
That's one thing that I can say, that I see you showing a lot of gratitude on your pages. Mm-hmm. And you appreciate the people that's out there helping you. Very much so. You do.
I do.
And to be able to see that, it really makes a difference to see it because it shows your heart. And LoveLogical, as you know, my show is LoveLogical, DNA Not Required, mm-hmm. which celebrates a non-biological within you. It's the foster, adopted, blended, and extended family. And you have a very broad, extended family.
I received that.
Even today you were sitting here and you were talking about your mentor.
Okay.
In New York. That's an extension of your family.
Yeah.
The people who you are communicating with, the kids that are coming to your etiquette school, mm-hmm. Your clients with your marketing business, everything. You have a huge extended family and you reach out to the community and you go to community events. And so
I didn't even think about it like that.
Yes.
I think my efforts and intentions, because they are genuine, I don't really think about it like that. I just kind of think about, the community events I attend, one, because I want to support the community. Two, I believe that we truly are helpers one to another. On the bio on my page, on the page for my etiquette school, when it says about the founder, there's a part that says, "Am I my brother's keeper?"
Yes.
Yes, in fact, I am. And I find myself really living by that. And I, now and over the years I have. So what I do know is there's more power in team than it is in one. Sometimes, an individual can think I've got all the answers, but it's always great to have a check and balance system. Mm-hmm. It's always great to not necessarily second guess yourself all the time, but just check for consistency and check for accuracy. And so that is what I see in terms of the things that I do. I really always want for my efforts in my intentional efforts, to be seen as genuine, because they are. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
You know, it makes a difference because our youth need role models to look up to. They need to know that there is a team that's working on their behalf. And I know that we have, you know, it takes a village. It does take a village. But it also takes one person at a time. And, you know, we take that each day. We take each day. And if we work toward doing something nice for one person every day, even if it's just a hello to someone who may be sitting at home alone.
Right. That's
you
true.
know, it just take one day. It makes a difference. I want to know what made you decide to open up an etiquette school.
So the truth is the fact that it was my vision when I was 16 and a half.
Okay.
16 years old. So in high school, I said to myself that I would open a school one day. And the etiquette school is just the beginning. There's some other things that I plan to do. But one of the reasons that I saw even way back then was the fact that everyone had not received the kind of training that I received. So etiquette started at home for me, right? So I can tell you about the days that I had to sit and practice sitting and walking up and down the stairs with the books on my head from being a very little girl. And then after that, I, of course, attended charm school and finishing school. And I actually had done some print modeling, and I attended a modeling school. And then I participated in pageants and placed. And then I was the owner of pageants. And so, you know, when you are in a space where, you know, social graces and communication and appropriate etiquette is required, it becomes a part of your DNA. So you talk about DNA, right? And I noticed that everyone really didn't have the same experiences, but I didn't realize that until I got a little bit older. Now, in terms of what made me kind of pull the trigger this year is I intended to do this earlier, but life has been busy for me. And my granny passed at 95 last year. And I was just like, Granny, you got to wait a little bit longer. But she was like, look, I'm 95. And the school is dedicated to my mother and my granny. My granny was such the lady. Oh, my gosh. And so as I began to look around, and one, as a hiring manager and interviewing younger people, as well as some adults, as well as some other events that I'm involved in, or in some positions that I've been placed in, etiquette is just something that is sincerely lacking. And it's not just the young ladies, or it's not just the young men. It's co-ed. It's not just children. It's also some great areas of opportunity, I'll say it like that, for adults. And there's so many other facets of etiquette that individuals don't think of. For example, when you think of learning etiquette, right, you're thinking of the dining specifically. But there are etiquettes that are required for business, right, for travel, right, for so basically in social settings. So there's so many different things that revolve around etiquette.
Yes.
Many people don't know or realize. So what happens is this. So you go to a meeting or you go to an event, one of the two, and you've learned what social graces are, right? And you learn what appropriate etiquette is. And you have a seat, you converse with individuals, you meet individuals, you have a great time, right? Because you understand what that environment is like, what that looks like, what it feels like, what the texture, and you understand what I mean by that.
I do.
Should be. And then you take someone who's never experienced that, and they don't know what the formalities are for, let's say, walking into a meeting and conversing during a meeting, or attending a certain types of social events. And because they don't know what the appropriate etiquettes are, then they're either uncomfortable, one, or two, sometimes things are done that are offensive, but it's really done out of ignorance. And ignorance is not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when you say the word ignorant, people think, well, you're insulting me. No, ignorance means to not know.
Right.
So when you take the time and really learn, about the various different types of etiquette, it improves your communication
Mm-hmm.
personally, amongst your family, amongst your spouse, amongst your children. It improves your business interactions, because now you can look back and say, wow, now I understand why that individual looked at me like that. Right? Or now I understand why I wasn't invited back, because I just didn't get it.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
You didn't know.
Right? The other part of it, is understanding, code switching when you need to do it, why you need to do it. So those are the kinds of things that have resonated deeply, really, over the past 10, 15 years. But really, as we move toward just a technology-based society and everyone spending time on their phones,
We're losing
the commonness of just being kind, just communicating, right? To sit down and converse.
The social graces.
The social graces and just common courtesies.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is, I was teaching a course to some young people, and at this particular time I was talking to the group of young men, right? And they said, what if I want to be a gentleman, but a lot of times the ladies, or they say the girls, the girls don't even accept it.
They won't allow it. And I've seen that happen so much in today's world, to where a man will do everything he can to be a gentleman. And you're hearing, I don't need you to open my door for me. I can open my own door. I don't need you to pull out my seat for me. I can sit down. I can this. So it's almost like men are afraid to treat a lady like a lady.
I think, I don't know if I would use the word afraid. I think uncomfortable.
Yeah, and yes, uncomfortable was a better word.
I think uncomfortable. Now, interestingly enough, during that conversation, a part of the exercise was for the young men to escort the ladies to their desks. Or to the table.
Okay.
And in another setting was a desk. So, but to the table. And as the young ladies start walking in, it's so interesting, because they said they started saying, I like this. I've seen other people do this. I like the way this feels, to be escorted to the table and for the young men to pull the chair out. Young ladies walked away saying, I will not accept anything less than this. And one of the parts of conversations that I had with them is I told the ladies, I said, I refuse to be treated as anything other than a lady. Like, I'm a woman, I get it, but I'm a girl. I like being a girl.
Yes.
And it's funny when I say that and they laugh, but they get it. It's like, but what the gentleman said was, I really enjoyed that. I enjoy walking the young lady to her table and having her sit down. It gave him a good sense of feeling. It gave him, and if you really think about it, that's kind of like a sense of a protector,
yes.
right? So I just really think getting back to what I call the basics is sometimes what's necessary so you can springboard to another level.
I know I've seen a lot of young men who have been taught to escort a young lady, and the elbow, as far as, how escorting them, the elbow. And I smile when I see it. I love it when I see it. Or when you see, someone take a young lady and say, okay, I'm going to move you over to this side so that I can walk on the street side. I smile when I see that, because it makes you feel good knowing that someone took the time to teach just that simple, basic step of, like you said, kindness, appreciation for someone.
Well, and this is the other part of conversation that I have with my young men. The reality is that some of the young ladies have never, ever experienced that at home. So they're in an environment where that's just not done. So either they've not seen their mother treated that way, or maybe they kind of see their mother treated that way, but they've never experienced that. So for some of the young ladies, it's just a brand new experience. And so we talk through that. We talk about that. We talk through that because that's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing.
It is. And you say you start as young as 5.
Mm-hmm. Age 5.
Age 5. And then you have various classes for the basics of etiquette as well as business etiquette.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a 4-week program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a 4 and 6 week program. Really, it's a 4, 6, and 8, but we'll talk about that. I'll explain.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a 4-week program, and that goes through the areas of personal and professional etiquette, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we spend some time with that particular within those 4 weeks, and we talk about personal communication, talking to each other. I have a segment on power words that I literally walk through. And when I say walk through, I identify what power words are. I give power words
Mm-hmm.
for my students to use and explain what makes it so powerful, right? And then I encourage them to start using that as soon as they leave, aside from using it in class. And then we also go through, the segment on communication. And we talk about texting. We talk about emailing. We talk about social media.
Mm-hmm.
We then talk about communicating amongst your friends and the importance of using powerful words and kind words to communicate and what that means. We talk about nonverbal communication. And then we also go into your more professional etiquette, and we talk about interviewing. We talk about, when the interview really starts, right? And then we get into dining. So then we talk about basic dining, and we go through the basic dining in the 4-week.
Mm-hmm.
And so our students have an opportunity to not just learn what utensils are what, but also how they should be served. So for example, you clean from the left, right? So I'm just saying, like, it's just certain things that, I'm sorry, you clean from the right,
And
you serve from the left.
Yeah.
But thank you, correction.
That's okay.
But those are the kinds of things that we go through. And then we have a hands-on demonstration. So for example, we select a meal, they get, and what I like about this, I'm getting excited. What I like about the dining segment is when you go through the 4-week segment, when you're served, you actually have a menu plate, a menu card. So you get a chance to select your menu, you get a chance to order. And so in that segment, you have an opportunity to identify, if I have the menu in French, then you've got to identify that you don't know French if you don't know French, and you learn how to address the waiter. If it's in Spanish, same thing. If it's in Arabic, same thing. So that's a really awesome tool. Now, when you get into our 6-week program, then you have an opportunity to be introduced to a foreign language, which means that, the first day, we start off with general, communication. Well, not general communication, but kind of an intro to etiquette. And we go over some, housekeeping and different things. And then you're given some introductory words and information, and different things to start reading. So that when you come every week, you're being introduced to the culture, right? So for those that are in that 6-week program together, we go through that cultural piece more in depth than we do in the 4-week.
Okay.
Because when you're going through the 6-week, you're being introduced to a language. So then we're going through what that culture is like, right? One of my special classes is in cultural communication.
Okay.
So I spend some time really talking about, for example, if Spanish is the language that you're being introduced to, then we talk about culture and eating and how the styles of eating and introductions, right? Salutations and different things like that. But we also talk about just general social graces, right? So as well as business. So we go through that phase. So in the 6th week, you really get an in-depth experience with that cultural communication piece. And then you kind of walk away saying, okay, now I'm really understanding. So you kind of have that immersion experience. And then we have cultural, separate cultural communications courses. We have cooking with chef.
Okay.
Courses for teens and adults. We also have a wedding etiquette course, which includes bridal parties. So bridal parties or a groom and a bride, and we go through the etiquettes for that as well. So we have a variety, and then we'll be launching fall going into 2020, we'll be launching our language camps, as well as I have a whole corporate training piece that'll be facilitated by an executive, a
Nice.
C-suite.
So let's say if I sit on a few different boards,
Mm-hmm.
and well, let's say if the board of directors would like to come and attend an etiquette class,
Mm-hmm.
not just on board training, but on business in general.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that you would offer? Or
Yes.
would you create a special course for it? Or
We would. It's in our professional etiquette course. Board, when you talk about parliamentary procedures, which is what you're
Yes.
talking about,
Yes.
we can actually set that up for you.
Mhm.
That would be a special request, but that is one of our a la carte options. And not many people mention that, but that is an a la carte option.
Okay, I love it. And then how many days per week? Let's say if I sign up for a 4-week class, how many days per week would I expect to attend?
You would attend 1 day per week.
Okay.
Anywhere from 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Right. So from the time if the class starts at 7, it starts at 7.
It starts at
I
7.
start on time.
Yes.
So, and what I mean by that is if it starts at 7, I allow a 15-minute grace for everyone to get in and get settled, and then class starts.
Okay.
So if you're rolling in at 7:05, just know that grace period, everybody's kind of getting acclimated, getting their drinks and whatever else, and I'm starting on time, or the facilitator is starting on time.
Nice. I like it. I really like it.
Thank you.
Now, where I can see as this being a great benefit as well, when you have, I'm looking for things that our LoveLogical families can do
Okay.
to bring the families closer together.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be something that a blended family,
Mhm.
to where the children can learn to sit together and the children can learn together with their LoveLogical mom or LoveLogical dad.
Mhm.
I just see this as so much more than just the child or the mother or this other person coming. I see it where it could be like a family.
Well, that's the whole point
Training.
of what I'm
Yes.
doing. So
Mhm.
essentially, at the end of a 4 week for our young people, they actually receive a table setting. Their assignment is to go home,
Mm-hmm.
set the table, and fellowship, eat and fellowship with their family. A lot of conversations used to be held at the dinner table.
At the dinner table.
That are no longer held at the dinner table because parents are working or they're busy.
Mhm.
And even if it's only 1 day a week, one of the things that I tell my students is this, and I tell families this: I don't care if Wednesday is a day, make Wednesday that day, and sit down and eat with your family. Set that table, pray, and whatever you choose to do.
Correct.
And eat with your family, because you're building the level of communication, but you're also building intimacy. That's true intimacy. And communication, right, with intimacy is a beautiful thing. And what it does is it strengthens the bond in a relationship, in a family relationship, business relationship. It just really does. And so when they finish the program and they get that, it's like, wow, I'm empowered, right? And so now it's like, now you're responsible for this. So this becomes your responsibility. The other part is this too. In some of the trainings, when we go through the different glasses and the flatware and what different pieces of equipment, or dishes are, some of the students are like, I never even knew that's what you use that for. It could be a water glass, but because they assumed that it was for something other than water, they didn't touch it. This really opens the door for the dialogue to say, I realize I'm in a comfortable environment and I feel comfortable enough to share that I just didn't know. And so that's the part for me that's so very empowering, because when you admit that and you say, I just didn't know, and I don't know any of this, you open the door for so much, learning and really for people to help you.
When you go to an event and you watch people at the table, I've always thought that the most awkward time at an event is when the bread comes out, because you have people that don't know if they should grab the bread or if they should cut the bread, if they should tear the bread, or, what do I do with the bread? Where does the bread go? And you can literally watch around the table and see how many people, and they wait for one person. They'll wait for one person to take the lead.
That does happen a lot.
To show them what to do.
or the salt and pepper shaker.
Yes, I'm a people watcher. So it's like, I'm a people watcher. So yes, and you're true. The salt and pepper shaker too.
Yes. It's almost like they're looking to say, which direction did that salt and pepper? Okay, so now I know I need to go clockwise. and you know what? That's so true. Or it's, I just don't want to be the first one. Right. I don't want to seem rude.
Or if you can't, now with me, I'm short.
Okay.
I'm short.
Okay.
So I see other short people, and it's like, okay, I can't reach that. So, what am I going to do? Do I get up, or what do I do? And I've always, excuse me, long arms. Excuse me, can you reach that for me? But when you watch people, and I don't care what a person's, financial background is, what their social status is, or anything. You see people from all age, races, genders, everything that become confused at times.
Well, let me just say this, and this is a fact. Class cannot be bought, but etiquette can be taught.
Yes, I like that.
Class cannot be bought,
but etiquette
can be taught. So, if you don't know, it's nothing wrong with not knowing, but it's everything wrong with not asking or reaching out to try to figure out what it is you need to do.
Yeah, just ask. Remember, I don't know your age, and I'm not trying to tell mine right off. Everybody know I'm proud of my age. I don't care, But
even my twins, my twins just had a birthday, a big birthday. But okay.
But remember the Miss Manners used to be a column in the paper. And there was also another etiquette column. I can't remember the name of it.
Actually, Miss Manners is still around.
Okay.
Miss Manners is still around. Okay. You just kind of have to Google it. And Miss Manners has some videos for etiquette.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Yes, and there was another etiquette column as well. But there used to be an etiquette column in the paper every week. And, of course, we don't really read the newspaper like we used to. Everything's online now. So you would literally have to go out and search for it.
Okay.
You have to go out and search for it. And I think that etiquette is coming back.
I don't think it's that etiquette left. I think what happened is it's in certain environments, it's just not taught. Because etiquette is taught, right? But it just depends on what environment you're in.
So when I say it's coming back, because you hear about etiquette again. For a while, you did not hear anything about etiquette.
Okay, I understand.
If you talk to most 14, 15-year-olds, etiquette is not a word that they're really familiar with.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, back in the day, and I guess I would be dating myself. Oh my gosh. Well, kind of, but not, because my twins had cooking class. They had a French cook. Was she a French teacher? She's a French cook. Yeah. So they had certain courses, but back in the day, there was home economics.
Yes.
And many people took home economics, right? And in that class, you would learn how to, communicate. You learn how to cook. You learned how to sew buttons on. And we do some of that too in our school. So it's just like, at the end of the day, it really is life skills. So I have an etiquette school, but it says we're a premier source. Bottom line is we're a premier source of personal and professional etiquette for the enhancement of overall life skills. So if you don't have it, we're going to give it to you. If you do have it, we're going to enhance that, which means maybe you did go through an etiquette course, or you've gone to finishing school. You may be someone who's traveling abroad as a delegate, and so you come to us to prepare for that, which you should. You may be, maybe you desire to be in leadership as a manager or as an executive. And so you decide to come take performance coaching courses about the etiquettes for that. Maybe you are, in leadership already, and it's like, there's some things I really need to brush up on. Well, you may end up taking one of our courses with one of our actual C-suite executives that really teaches you etiquette in that environment, because that's a different environment, right? So it calls for a different type of it does. It calls for a kind of a different type of etiquette based on what you're dealing with. So, I just, all I can say is this: I'm excited about what's happening in terms of what I am doing, as well as those who have joined me in this journey. And when I look at, etiquette in Michigan, there's no other school that's doing what we're doing.
I know. I looked and I noticed
nationally, there's no one else doing what we're doing. I came to disrupt the market, and I am. And we'll be in some other states.
When I told my son that you were going to be here tonight and about the etiquette school, he says, remember back when you had the programs and the girls would have on the wedding dresses and the guys. I said, you talking about a cotillion?
Yeah, the cotillion.
And he said, yes. My son, I'm aging myself, which, like I said, I'm proud of my age. My son's 33.
Really?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Oh, wow. You make me feel really awesome right now.
Yes. You're just a baby. But so my son is 33, and he was talking about the cotillions that you don't hear about cotillions as much.
They do have them.
And they still have cotillions. And
I was just contacted.
Him to that.
Yeah, I was just contacted about some training and speaking. And in fact, there is a mother and daughter tea that I'll be speaking at in October. So there are, it's really about, again, it's really the groups that you're involved in, right? And so one of the things that I tell people is this: if you don't know something, Google really is a good friend.
It is.
Right? And when you start searching out information, you'll find a lot of different things. Sometimes that just may not be a group that you're involved in because it's not something that you've done. But once you reach out, then you start finding all types of things. And then, I would say, schedule yourself to go to an event or reach out to individuals you see in that group and get information. And I'm sure they'll share it.
Or just buy a ticket to a fundraiser and go and introduce yourself.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Buy a ticket and just go. I have a tendency to be a loner, which a lot of people feel. I'm a loner.
Okay.
Yes. If there's an event, I have to force myself to go.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. People don't expect that of me, but I have to force myself to go.
Okay.
And that's because my past life required me to attend so many different events, fundraising events. I did speaking engagements, and I hosted events. I just did so much.
Okay.
To where when I moved back to Michigan, I just kind of sat down and was like,
now, where were you before?
I had left Michigan, and I went from here I was still in Kalamazoo for a while, which is still Michigan. But then I moved to Evansville, Indiana.
Okay.
And from Evansville, Indiana to Indianapolis.
So you just went to Indy and worked yourself.
And came back.
And then came back and said, okay, I'm done. Really? How can you play us that? Oh, my goodness. That means you've got some things that we need.
I started hosting events back in the early 90s in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
I hosted murder mystery dinners.
Okay.
I did My Doll and Me tea parties because I had my daughter at the time who was a toddler, and we would host tea parties. And I went from there to hosting all type of different events in Evansville and Indianapolis, jazz events, and I've done so much. And I just came home and I sat down. My daughter's a teenager.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be out every weekend.
Okay.
I wanted to be home.
Okay. Okay.
Because a young lady at that age, 12, 13 years old, being at an event every Friday and Saturday, those are times that I needed to be home more.
I get that. I stopped traveling to be home with my twins before, a few years before they graduated high school, and I do remember being in my hotel rooms or suites and just really missing them, and them calling me in the wee hours of the morning because of the time difference, and just laying in bed waiting for that call. You know, and I'd be in tears. I'm like, I miss my babies. They didn't know that, but I would be waiting for that call. And one day it was just like, they looked at me like, Mama, come home. And I just did. There wasn't even a question. Yeah. It was like the look and what they said. I just literally, like, that week.
It hurt your heart, didn't it?
It was, well, I miss them a lot when I travel, but what I've gained is so great in terms of the skill base and the things that I've had, or I was afforded the opportunity to execute on,
and what they've gained from it as
and
well.
what they've gained. Because when my son travels, he'll say, Ma, traveling is tiring. I said, so can you imagine? He said, wow, you traveled a long time. My daughter will say, whew, we'll take a trip for 2 days. We pack half the house. No, I'm just teasing. But it
takes a lot.
It takes a lot. And so I commend you for that, because I really did give up some things in order to do it. But one thing I know for sure, or I knew for sure, and I do know today, is that, you can only raise your kids once. Yeah. So for me, it was, you know what? I only have one lifetime to do this. I can always position myself professionally to do something else.
Yes. And living out of a suitcase is very difficult when you have children at home. And I was a single mom. So, and my kids are 16 years apart. So I had my son was there, but I remembered being out of town. I was out of town training. I did fraud investigations training and everything. And I was out of town conducting a training, and there was an earthquake in Evansville.
Wow.
Not being home for that, it was very hard for me.
Yeah.
I mean, my son handled everything. They were fine. But just the fact that I wasn't there and that happened, and I know you can't be there for everything, but it was just, that was such it's an anomaly. What, earthquake? But it was right after we had a tornado as well.
Yeah.
So I was like, what in the world? So I'm like, maybe something's telling me I need to keep my butt at home a little more.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my last flights when I traveled, and I know we're digressing, but one of my last flights when I traveled was so bad. The turbulence was so bad. I was just like, okay, this must be a sign. Because, I mean, in all the traveling I had done, I made the comment to a friend. I was like, the air is different. The air is just different. And if you've traveled, after you've traveled for 10, 15 years, you get it.
I know what you mean.
And so I literally, that flight, the turbulence was so bad. There was a literal storm on the other side of the sky. And we were like, the storm was moving. And so that means we were riding through an actual thunderstorm. And all I could think was, so if I make it out of this, maybe this is the cue that says you get to go be with your family. And I'm serious. And when the flight finally landed, because it was a very bumpy landing, I was like, okay, I think I've kind of flown the friendly skies enough for a while.
Take a break.
And shortly after that, that's a conversation that we had. So with the twins, I had with the twins. So in my family at the time. So I commend you, because you did what you needed to do. You did what you needed to do.
And my daughter, she's starting her senior year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So I'm able to get out and do a little bit more now.
Okay.
Now I have to really force myself, because I've kind of stepped back. So I'm stepping back up now.
Well, yeah.
But there's what you're doing. To me, that will help bring the family back together.
That was the
family
intent.
Unit back together. I love the dinner table, because if you recall back, I think about 5 years ago, a campaign started nationally about bringing the family dinner table back together. Because as African American families, I know we used to eat together on Sunday. Sunday was the day for everyone to come together. Like you said, it doesn't matter what day it is, as long as there's a day where everyone can eat. And moving back to Michigan for me was for my daughter, to be able to meet and know who her relatives were. Indianapolis, Evansville was not that far, but people sometimes don't like to travel.
That's very true.
Yes,
that's very true. And that, in terms of what you just said, that's my intent. It's really to bring families, cultures, and I don't care what nationality you are. My
Right.
goal is to help bring families back to the table, have those conversations, talk about your days, talk through stresses.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it really just is about having the conversation and talking about how to cope with that, because at my school we teach some of what I'm teaching really is coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is that's my ultimate goal.
I love it. And another thing that Nicole said, and I want to touch on. You were talking about when you're traveling overseas, you're traveling to different countries and learning etiquette for those countries. That is so important because a lot of our youth, as you know, we're starting to travel more out of the United States. We're starting to explore the world, and we have a beautiful world to explore. And I'm so happy to see that people are stepping outside of their comfort zone and they're looking and trying to understand other cultures. But don't just assume that because you see a certain thing on television, you see India on TV, you see Africa on TV, that you could take a trip and you're going to know what to do. Learn about the country so that you won't offend anyone, so that you will know how to conduct yourself when you go there. Because there are some countries where you can go and you act a fool, they're going to lock you up.
Well, they will, and
Yes.
and there are levels of acting
Yes.
inappropriately.
Yes, and
you know?
there are levels, but the space between their levels, sometimes that's much lesser space than what you have here. So your school will be a perfect place for someone to come and take a class to learn what they should know. And even working in corporate America, corporate America is very, very diverse now. I would think that it would almost be a requirement.
For some, in some fields, it is a requirement. And so the cultural communication piece that I teach, I also in the program, I also teach independently. So for me, that's major, right? Because all of my, I mean, pretty much, man, for as far back as I can remember, diversity was a part of my life. So I think understanding that piece and understanding, how to communicate amongst the culture, or even just what that looks like, what that is, and just kind of understanding that process or theory is just really important. It's beneficial to your personal and professional space. It just really is.
To me, it really is. My granddaughter is 5, and I can see us placing her in one of your classes because I want her to learn the same way that I learned. I was saying that when I was being raised in Detroit, my parents used to attend different dances. I watched my mother dressed in her gowns, my father in his tuxedo and his suits, and they would go to different events. The Brewster's Old Timers was one they would go to. They would go to the Light Guard Armory. Ladies dressed like ladies. I'd love to watch her put her long gloves on, put her hair up in I think they call it a chignon, whatever. Put her hair up with the curls coming down and everything, and go out and enjoy each other, watching the way that my father escorted her. I love watching couples dance together. And I've noticed that our younger couples don't really slow dance often. But I'm noticing that there's so much room for what you do just
Thank
in our
you.
conversation.
It is.
There's so much room. I'm sitting here and my head is like going all over the place with all these different thoughts and ideas. So, for my LoveLogical families out there, if you're looking for something to do to bring your families together, something fun, something different, look at Beecher Etiquette School here in Michigan. And where are you located, Nicole?
So we're located in Bloomfield Hills with remote locations. Bloomfield Hills in Detroit with remote locations throughout Michigan. We actually have a major announcement coming up in the coming weeks about one of our locations. So it's great, great, great news. But absolutely, I don't. What I'll say is this: it would be great if maybe you could get, a a group of individuals together. And what we can do is schedule some sessions.
That would be fun.
And what we do have group rates available.
Mm-hmm.
And what we would do is, and in my opinion, I would go for, if you can't do a 4-week program, then at least maybe have 2 sessions with your group, and we go over social graces and personal etiquette, and then end with the dining piece. That would be beneficial as well.
I think that would be awesome. Do you work with nonprofit organizations?
When you say work with, what do you mean?
As far as, is there any sort of a discount for nonprofit organizations if they're coming in as a group, or fundraisers? If a nonprofit wanted to host some of your etiquette classes for a fundraiser,
that we can talk through that, because we're not a nonprofit,
right?
However, we can talk through the fundraising piece.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that am implementing for fall 2019 a etiquette training field trip days.
Okay.
So with that, you do get a bit of a group rate.
Look, where are we going?
Yeah, because I'm just saying. So essentially,
Yes.
you come to our facility, and what we do is we train you on site. So like for the children, as opposed to maybe going to the movies or a bounce house, they'd actually come in and they'd be taught etiquette for a half day.
Nice.
And then they will spend some time eating, so they'll have a chance to be served. So that's something that we're doing. We always offer group rates, so we don't do anything special for nonprofits per se, but I believe from a group rate standpoint, I believe it serves the need.
Okay. So mentorship programs, we have many that are here within the metropolitan area. This would probably be a great outing for the children who you are mentoring. My LoveLogical families, come together. Take advantage of this opportunity. Introduce your children to the etiquette classes, and also consider the opera, the symphony, the ballet, just the theater, the arts. They all go hand in hand, because that will give the children an opportunity to take the etiquette class and then go out and learn how to conduct themselves accordingly in just different environments.
And I attend all of those.
That would be a good start.
I attend all of those.
And I had to. I didn't have a choice. When I was growing up, I thought my mother was crazy at first. But as I grew into a woman, it made me appreciate her that much more. It made me appreciate her that much more. And I've taken many kids to different events, and I've heard the complaints on the way, and
then afterward, like, I didn't like it, but it was different.
Yeah, and I heard the cheers on the way. I remember taking a group of kids in Evansville to the opera, and at intermission, I said, "So you ready to go?" And they were like, "No. What are you talking about? No."
Because it was a different experience.
It's a different experience.
I just had a conversation with someone. I'm like, that's what me and my daughter, my daughter, that was one of the areas that she studied. So it's just kind of like, we're like, okay, so which one are we going to this season? Or I don't know, do we want to do that? Or should we schedule a trip to Broadway so we can go see this or that? So it becomes one of those things where you're interested, well, if you like it.
Yes.
But you become interested in what's playing next and what's happening next. So I think that's really awesome.
And it could be a really great bonding experience for a LoveLogical mom or LoveLogical dad, with their child. It could be a wonderful bonding experience.
I agree.
And it's something that we don't think about. And even families who are LoveLogically fostering children, there are a lot of discount tickets and things out here available for you. So take a day and find out where the tickets are available and go, because there's a whole world out here that we're not taking the opportunity to start exploring or to continue exploring. And for those of you who are like me, you may have done a lot of things when you were younger, and you may not be as sure of yourself when it comes to certain things, certain places that you go, because it's been a while. Now you have somewhere to go to get that that catch up, that to figure it out. How I can get a reminder here, refresher course, or whichever way you want to look at it. Just take advantage, because I want to see us support Nicole in what she's doing,
Oh,
because
thank you.
you are truly, truly bringing something. You said it never left, but in my world, you're bringing it back.
Yeah, it's like
And
a
it's really-
reintroduction.
yes,
It's
it
a
is.
reintroduction.
A refresher, like I said,
Yeah,
a
you're right.
reintroduction.
You're
So
right.
let's do it. I want to see people support what you're doing, because I see you support a lot of businesses out here as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you're also an event planner too, if I recall.
I'm not an event
No.
planner. I have event planners that do work for me. I can plan events, but I'm not like them. I will not claim to be an expert event planner.
Okay.
Never. But if I have to plan something,
It's done.
I can figure it out.
Okay.
Right? But one of the things I know is, I stay in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of lanes, but I stay in my lanes, right? And I'm not saying that I can't plan, but it's what I find is I'm so busy that I just don't have the bandwidth for that. But for certain things, I do pull together. And yes, you have attended some things that I've pulled together myself. But I just kind of I don't know. I guess I'm kind of that ad hoc, off the cuff person. It's like if somebody gives me something today, I'm like, okay, I got to pull this off. So let me figure out how to pull it off. So when you also asked about an event I'm planning for October, and October is my birthday month. But I was like, I don't have all the details yet, because I want to add a therapist and a couple other things. So I was just like, whew. Let's not talk about that. And then then I thought, oh my gosh, that's something else I have to do.
Well, when you said, talk to you, see if you want to be a part of this, and I was like, that sounds interesting. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are so many names that popped into my head to put you in contact with for that. There's so many.
Okay.
So I can't wait to put you in contact with these ladies.
Well, you know what? And this is about etiquette, but I'll say this. When we talk about that particular topic, people are so afraid to have that discussion. It's taboo.
Not anymore, I don't think.
Well, real, true conversation.
Oh, the real, you talking about get down to the deep bones
right.
of it?
Absolutely. Getting down to the bones of it is uncomfortable.
I'm on a board where we've had a deep conversation like that, and we could talk about that off the air here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was very well received.
I believe it, because
Yeah.
people are afraid to have certain conversations.
And we need to have
And we need
conversations
to-
with our kids.
I was about to say, thank you. I mean, but so if I can't have the conversation with you as an adult, we really have a challenge having that conversation with our kids, which is why there's some other issues going on. But I digress. I don't
Yes,
want to, because
that's
people
okay.
are probably wondering,
what are they
talking
And
about?
Can I say what it is?
You can say what it is.
I don't have a hard time talking about it. My mother was very blunt with me growing up. We're talking about sex, sex. That's what we're talking about. And yes, we do need to have candid conversations about sex.
Yeah.
Because our kids are learning about it in the wrong way.
Right.
The wrong way. As young as preschool, some of them, because they're learning from other kids. So, yes, we need to know when, where, how, why, everything, and it all should be age appropriate. Yes, so I'm looking forward to that. That's something I'm looking forward to. We're going to wrap up. So while we're wrapping up here, the one thing that I want to make sure of is that you know that Nicole is Beecher, Beecher Etiquette and Etiquette School. And could you give them the web address and your email?
Right. It's Beecher Etiquette School of M-MI. So it's Beecher Etiquette School of look, this is bad. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's Beecher Etiquette School of Michigan. So if you Google Beecher Etiquette School of Michigan, we are within a top 5 on your Google search. So you will find us at Beecher Etiquette School of Michigan if you Google. And also, if you want to send an email, you can email us at beecheretiquetteschool@gmail.com. So beecheretiquetteschool@gmail.com.
Okay.
And we left off the Michigan because we'll actually be opening locations throughout the U.S.
Yes, that's why I was very happy to see that you're looking at going down south and you're going all over. And I see that you have several, like you said, satellite locations in Michigan. And I'm going to ask, because everybody know when it comes to Michigan, I got to ask, do you have a satellite in Kalamazoo yet?
I don't have one in Kalamazoo. Well, but see, remember, we do pop-up.
Yes.
So just like with some of the places, we actually do pop-up, right, training, which means that if you're interested in setting up a training for your area, you just need to give us a call or send us an email. Email is even better because then we have that formal communication. And what we'll do is we'll actually schedule that. So let's say 2 months from now, you and a group of individuals, maybe it's 30 of you, then you'd be eligible for group pricing. And then what we would do is just plan it out. And, and then we'd show up and we train.
Okay. So there you go. You have Beecher Etiquette School of Michigan. And Google that. It's going to bring it up. You're going to go to Beecher Etiquette School at gmail.com. And
our number is 248-671-3022.
Okay. And if you go on my LoveLogical Facebook page and you look at today's announcement, you will see that right there on the announcement, I have the Beecher Etiquette School information right there next to Nicole's beautiful picture.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even know that.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. And thank you, Nicole, for being here. I truly appreciate you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And I'm hoping that we hear that Nicole has heard from you. Thank you again. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yes.